That was the closest I've ever come to prostitution that day. And let me explain.
Alex Netherda, welcome to Bitter Binge.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Was it kind of a weird ask when I was like, come on to the podcast?
No, I mean, if it wasn't you, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I did my first pod with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and that one was really, really cool.
Oh, was it fitness related?
It was free form. We talked about everything. So I know him. I met him at my gym.
Joe Rogan style.
Yes.
Did it last 3 hours?
Yes. We talked for 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Okay, so that'll be like the precursor to this, ladies and gents. If you're like, Alex is cool, but I need a deep dive, we'll take you over to that podcast and you can do the deep dive.
Or just tap into my Instagram stories and you'll get to know me very quickly.
Good segue into your Instagram and your TikTok, because I feel like you're way more active on TikTok. Ya boy nerdy. I am obsessed. Your Instagram as well. Like you're the only, you're like the only person who I will like be getting ready in the morning. So hi, you're with me. And I'll prop you up on my makeup stand and I'll just be like brushing my teeth, like watching your stories because you're talking to the camera and you have a very inclusive, very intimate look into your life. But not
thank
like,
you. I try to make it that way, to be honest. I take that as a huge compliment, and I've got that from other people as well. Some people, they'll comment like on my TikTok or whatever, and they'll be like, I feel like we're on FaceTime, or I haven't posted in a while. And they're like, then I'll do another one. And they're like, I missed our FaceTimes. Like, thank you. I needed this, or something like that. And that's kind of what I try to give off. I try to make it very genuine, very authentic, very real.
It is.
And so I take that as a huge compliment. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things about your channels that I will say that I want to talk about. So first and foremost, before we even get to that though, like we've known each other, like 6-ish years?
I think I met you at the very beginning of 2020. So it hasn't been as long as it feels.
Oh.
Because I met you on set.
Was that 2020?
Because I wasn't acting until 2020 because I couldn't. I was still part of the NCAA and they owned me basically because NIL was different back then. So I had to wait until I got out of college and I was done with football. And then I started acting like January 4 of 2020 was my first entertainment job.
Oh, so it's really only been 4 years that I've known you.
Yeah,
but since that time, yes, we did meet on set, which was really fun. And then you were somebody that I was like, he's kind of cool. And I could tell that like you were just easy to talk to and easygoing, and then stayed connected. And then when I was casting my proof of concept, and I was like, I know there's a part in here for you, and talked to Farron and it worked out. And you were in our pilot proof of concept, whatever we want to call it, uncredited, little plug there. And you did great. And we had so much fun. And it was
awesome.
Only 2 days on set, but it was so much fun. And then I remember Farron basically fell in love with you from that point on. She's like, he is so funny. He's so fun. Like we have to work with him again. So every time she comes down, she's like, what's Alex up to? What's Netherda doing?
I love Farron. She's the best. And that was an unbelievable project. That was so much fun. Even though I had a pretty minor role in it. I loved the days on set, loved the character, loved working with y'all, loved watching you work. It was amazing. Yeah, I would do it over and over and over again.
And we're trying to.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, okay, you're a Cal Berkeley alum, football extraordinaire, beast. What did you go to school for?
I was pre-law.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you also were really into, you went on to work at like a safari, but because you know so much about animals, did you minor in anything that had to do with animals?
No.
Okay.
So my minor was basically my entire life leading up to that. Mm-hmm. That is to this day, with the exception of our short, proof of concept, whatever, the best job I've ever had.
Because it was in Santa Rosa?
Yeah. Okay. It's called Safari West. If you're within 100 miles of Santa Rosa, California, 200 miles, I don't care. Book a tour and go there. It's, you've never been, correct?
No, but I used to watch you were dressed like a safari man.
Like Crocodile Dundee. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you would do voices, or would you do voices on your tours?
Yes. So I would, it's a very like spring and summer. It's a fair weather place. Obviously it's a 500 acre outdoor wildlife preserve that specifies in African mammalia, African mammals. And then they have birds of all over the world. My dad started volunteering there when I was a youngin', like a wee little tyke. He was working
Do the
there.
voices.
And he started,
We're here for the voices,
So-
ladies and gentlemen.
to make this long story very short, he was going to the gym in town. He was rubbing elbows with some guys in the gym, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my other buddy Peter owns this ranch like with giraffes and zebras and shit up on the hill." My dad's like, "What the fuck?" My dad's a doctor, and they kind of get close. They start rubbing elbows together as well, and they're like, they get to know each other. He goes up and tours it, and he like enjoys it. And at one point, there's this really big storm, and a giraffe gets stuck in the mud. And Peter calls my dad, and I could be getting some of these facts wrong, but this is basically what happened. Peter calls my dad, and he's like, "Hey, I can't get a hold of my vet. This storm is crazy. I got a giraffe that's messed up out here. I need some help to get him right."
Oh my God.
And my dad, we lived at the bottom of the hill, so it was like a 10, 15-minute drive up the hill to get up there. My dad goes up there. He's like knee deep in the mud, getting this giraffe unstuck, fixing it, or maybe it had a broken leg, something like that. My dad is not a veterinarian. He's just an incredibly intelligent man who's been practicing medicine his entire life. Stanford educated, George Washington Medical School educated. Yeah.
Wow.
He used to work with Coco the gorilla and her boyfriend when he was living in Washington, D.C. Anyway, so he gets this giraffe out the mud, and he said from that moment, like it was just in him. He's like, "I'm going to do whatever I can, whenever I can, to be here and volunteer and spend more time here." So then he would volunteer there like every Saturday and Sunday of my young life. I would wake up at 9 or 10 o'clock when I was a kid, and I'd be hanging out with my mom and my siblings, and then my dad would come home covered in like hay and smelling like animal crap and stuff like that. So he was just up there scooping up poop, fixing fences, treating animals, feeding animals, doing whatever he could to just be around.
Did you ever go with him?
All the time. I basically grew up there, is what I'm
love
trying to say.
that.
There's a photo of
Yeah.
me when I'm like 3 years old on my dad's shoulders there. And my sister worked there in high school. My brother worked there in high school. I'm the only one who actually didn't work there because sports were just so much of my life. So then I go through college, and then I come back, and I'm living at home during COVID. And they call my parents, and they're like, "Hey, are any of the kids in town right now? Because we need staff."
Wow.
And they talked to Spence, my younger brother, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, I'd love to, but I'm about to go back to LA, so I can't." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'll fucking do it."
So the knowledge of the animals and growing up in that way, you just sort of learn.
Well, also, I didn't touch on this, but when I was 9, my family moved to Africa, and we lived in Southern Africa. And so my dad, while he had been volunteering here, he was also doing a lot of HIV and AIDS work, which was taking him to and from Africa. So I just kind of, by osmosis, just absorbed a lot of information about African animals. Lived there. Obviously, that's what happens while you're there. We went on safari all the time, had lots of game drives. I was looking things up, researching stuff. I always loved animals. I loved the crocodile hunter. I loved Zaboomafoo growing up. It's now called like Wild Kratts, is by the same guy. It's very popular with kids. But I loved everything about animals. I thought I was going to be like a zoologist or something growing up for a while, but didn't end up happening. Anyway, then when you get there, I already had a lot of precursor knowledge, but then they train you up and stuff.
When did the voices come into play? And also, did that tie back? Like, did you do anything with acting growing up? Like, obviously, you're multifaceted. You're an athlete, an animal, knowledge. There's no word for that. You're knowledgeable about animals. You are an actor, very good actor. You're very talented. So, and you're also extremely motivational. I don't know if you could be a motivational speaker.
That's how my like TikTok journey kind of started.
But when did and we'll get to what you're doing now and all the things, but when did the acting bug kind of come into play?
Bite me?
Yeah. When did it bite you in the ass? And when did you realize like, oh, I'm charismatic, which is, a big part of this job. It's not just about being talented, which it is, but there's a whole area in which you have to be able to perform or be out in public and show up and show out.
Right. So to answer your original question, basically during the slow months of January or November, December, January, you'd have like 6 people on your truck all day, and you're out there in the cold. And so in order to stay sane and not lose my mind out there in those days, I would do tours as other people.
I love
and do different accents. And I had one of my buddies who was working there was from Queensland, Australia. And so he coached me up on that accent. So that one was one of the ones that I would do better. And I would try like most of the people I bring are not going to be Scottish or Irish or whatever, or South African. So they don't really know what the accent sounds like. I'll be doing a Scottish accent. They're like, "Are you Australian?" And I'm like,
did
no.
you stay in character? Like, would you have a name?
Oh, sometimes I wouldn't break. And then sometimes I would. And then like at the end of the tour, I'd be like, actually, my name's Alex and I've just been practicing this. Or da-da-da-da. And they're like, some people would thought it would be like, that's amazing. Other people thought it was weird. There were a couple times I got caught up because a family would come back with like the rest of the gang and I'm not Scottish anymore or something. And I was like, oh.
Yes. Well, you told a story back in the day. So you were still doing the tours and I think you did do a character and you had a group of women that like tipped you.
That was the closest I've ever come to prostitution that day. And let me explain.
Oh my God.
So I had this group of, I believe it was 3 older women, and they were kind of just a problem on the tour. So you drive up in this really big truck and there's a seat on top that you kind of rotate through because that's kind of like the hot seat. Everyone wants to sit up there.
The top of the bus tour.
Yeah, it's like the best seat in the house kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And there was a young girl on our thing as well, young girl being like 7 or 8 maybe. And generally, most people get the fucking idea that you let the kid do that, right? Everyone else is a grown fucking adult. Like, let the kid ride the fucking ride, right? And so I put the girl up there first just to get that out of the way. And then these ladies are like really bothering me about making sure that they're like, they timed apparently the other people. They're like, they were up there for 15 minutes a piece or 30 minutes a piece or whatever, and we were only up there for fucking 27 or
so you
10.
had 3 Karens.
I swear to God, it was unreal.
It's annoying.
It was unbelievable. And then I was like, ladies, you're fucking killing me. And every time I would go up to talk about an animal, they'd kind of interrupt me with questions. And I was like, look, bitch, if you just shut up and let me do my spiel, I promise I'll answer the questions before you have time to ask them. So they're just fucking giving me shit. And then they're bothering me about the girl being up on top of the truck longer. And I was like, y'all are crazy. And so after we get off of the truck, they slipped me like $100 or something like that. Like, thank you so much for taking good care of us. And I couldn't stand these women at this point. And that is when I became a hooker. Because for the rest of the tour, I like didn't care if they harassed me
or interrupted me.
Yeah, I was like, if you're gonna break me off better,
Did you normally get tipped, or was that kind of like a rarity?
It's kind of expected. They had a couple of signs on the trucks that say like, "Don't forget to tip your server."
But $100 is
your tour guide.
Nice.
It's huge.
Okay.
Normally, like per group, like the standard would be like $20 per group.
Right? So
and it's good and bad because two people, they take up a little bit of space on your truck because you try to fill your truck with people, right?
Are you seeing like a decline in the service industry in terms of like customer to server reactions or interactions? Like, I'm just noticing when I go out, like even to the coffee shops, like the service is shit, people are rude, and I still am a firm believer of like, you earn the tip because it's not your given right, and maybe that's a dick thing to say, but like at the same time, I'm like, I've been in the service industry. I tip very well. If you are a good server or a good barista or whatever, you're just not a dick. It's really like the standard's pretty low, but like if you're just a dick.
Yeah, I hear you. I have, and I say this with the entirety of my chest, I believe that I have the correct stance on this. And I know it's not just because it's my opinion, but I believe that this is the rightest answer you'll ever hear.
I'm right.
Yes, because I benefit. My whole life is based on tips right now because when I'm not on set, I'm elbow deep in the service industry. And I've been that way since college because I worked at the zoo. And I know that it's a flawed, kind of fucked system. It's wrong. It's stupid. It's the fact that we do it is absolutely ridiculous. The way that we do it is even more ridiculous. There is no reason that a business should rationalize or justify giving their employees a non-livable wage just because, and then put the responsibility of making that up on the guest.
Yeah.
In a way, if you think about it, how customer service, the service industry is all about guest experience.
Yeah.
It's kind of on its head already because, hey, we want you to have the best experience possible, but make sure you take care of our people on the back end because we can't actually afford to give them any money.
Seriously.
What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
So I come here to have a good time and you want me to have the best experience and now I have to give extra money to pay your staff? That's an idiotic idea. I appreciate the hell out of it because it makes my life livable, but it's flawed. It's broken.
But if you were given a decent living wage at the jump, it wouldn't be so dependent on that. On top of, I mean, I don't know about the places you work, but a lot of these restaurants, a lot of these establishments don't provide any type of benefits, don't provide
zero.
Yeah, which is
zero.
Also, I'm like, we're not going political, but
and then so you'll see other places that like, hey, on the check or whatever, they're like, hey, we tack on an additional 20% that's not a gratuity so that we can give them benefits. And I was like, motherfucker, what? You're taking, whoa, my money is now giving him health care? Bro.
I saw that the other day on a check, but this is the first time I've ever seen this. It said, it says something like, let us know if you'd like us to remove it, which I didn't know was even an option. So you don't, it obviously I always include it. Whatever. It's not very much. And I believe it's beneficial to the people serving us. I didn't know it was optional.
I think it's definitely changing. It used to be 10%, now it's 20. And again, I benefit from that. I enjoy that, but like that's a lot of money. They ask for it on to-go orders. I'm ordering at a kiosk and I ask for a tip. I'm like, bro, tips are for services rendered. What service did you provide me?
I know.
What am I going to do? I'm going to be tipping my mechanic now when he fixed my car? When somebody comes in and hangs blinds in my apartment, I got to tip him too for his services? No, this is your job. If you're great at the service and you bend over backwards to try to help me out, I'm already going to tip you. That's what it's going to be. I'm going to tip you 20%. When I walk in to sit down at a meal, I'm going to tip my server 20%. Now the bar is very, very low, but you still got to step over it.
Yeah.
You can lose your tip for sure. Or if you do a good job, like I'll tip you 25, 30%. Yeah. I'm gracious with it because I understand I've done the job. I do the job. I understand. But also at the same time, I know how sometimes easy it can be and how easy I am as a guest. I'm like, bro, you do not have to worry about me. But if you're fucking me up and I'm asking for nothing, then we got a problem. And you want 20%, bro, I haven't seen you since you asked me for my, since you put the food down. And I was like, I'm not going to die without salt and pepper, but I definitely wanted it.
You talk on your social channels, you do a lot of motivational kind of speech to people. You get them up, you're like, get your ass out of bed, get to the gym, all the things, which I love because sometimes there have been times when I'm like, ugh, and then I'll watch one of your stories. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Kinda pump me up a bit. Where does that come from? Like, is that just something you learn? Is that something your life is kind of you've always had in your life? Is that something from being on a football team, being in sport? Where does it
definitely comes from sports. It comes a lot from my dad, and he. So the way I talk about my parents and the two biggest things that they probably each instilled in me is my mom really cultivated my dreamer mentality and the idea and delusional belief that I can do whatever I want to. But my dad is really on like discipline and hard work and grit and not quitting and keeping going. And so I kind of, both of those, I was like, okay, well, if I want to make my dreams happen, I have to be super disciplined and whatever. And as much as we might want somebody to, no one is ever going to come around and pluck us up and put us on top of the mountain where we want ourselves to be.
Which is news to me because for 29 years I thought that was the case, and then newsflash, woke up one day and was like, oh.
Once that prefrontal cortex was developed,
chocolate bar with the gold wrapper's not gonna come one day. Like, ooh,
exactly.
Shit. I have to work really hard.
I was very blessed when I entered high school. My dad put me in touch with and hired me a trainer who was initially like a hurdle coach because I was trying to cultivate my talent and skills in track and field along with football. And then he just became like my trainer for everything. And then he's just become like my bigger brother basically. And he helped me with that a lot. And he would talk to me about that a lot. I was also like, as a kid, I was just, I don't know if you want to call it like, I don't think there's anything toxic about it, but it's definitely like hyper masculine. You could argue that it's heteronormative or not, but I was just like super into those like relatively corny, like motivational videos you'd find on YouTube about like, how bad do you want it? Are you going to get up when in the 5 o'clock in the morning and go chase this thing or do this thing? Or are you willing to sprint when the distance is unknown? And how hard are you willing to work for your dreams? They're like, fucking real hard.
Yes.
You know?
Do you read any, have you read any like motivational?
For sure. Like I'm all about Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. He has like a 14-minute kind of monologue that he did at this school that I have like memorized to this day. I would listen to speeches by like Arnold and all these other like Churchill, all these OG, like unbelievable speeches. And but then when I got into high school, like that fueled me more, and I felt like it honestly, whether it was corny or not or whatever, it would help me stay motivated and disciplined. And sometimes, especially now, it manifested itself through my social medias just by like, it's almost like I say it to other people, but it's really because I need to hear it.
You're repeating.
And I'm just like, if I need to hear this, somebody out there also does.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got out of bed when I fucking didn't want to this morning, and I'm going to the gym when I don't necessarily want to be going to the gym right now, but 3 hours from now, I want to have been done with the gym.
Yes.
So I'm going and doing it, right?
And
that's one of my best ways of wording it. And so I started putting that out, and I was like, yeah, I fucking did this shit, and you can too, because no one's going to do it for you, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and it sucks, but that's the only way you're going to get forward. And then it started resonating with people.
Do you have people reach out to you that are like, I needed to hear this?
For sure. Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot, and then other times it's crickets. And either way, I'm just going to keep sending it because
it's for you, like you
as
said.
far as I'm concerned, it's just positivity that I'm pushing out there. And I try to make it less corny and make it, like you said earlier, like make it super intimate and authentic and organic and genuine, and kind of touch on little bits and pieces of what keeps people. My buddy put me on this phrase like a couple of like 2 years ago, like it knocks you off your pivot. And when you're on your pivots, when you're firing on all cylinders, and you might not be like, pedal to the metal, but you're like getting the things done incrementally, systematically that you need to get done. And then something happens, you have anxiety, or something gets messed up in your schedule, or you don't get enough sleep, or you eat poorly, and then you're like beating yourself up about it, or you haven't had an off day in a while, and you're just like, it knocks you off your pivot. And it's like, it's okay, take a breather, but get back on it, because otherwise you'll be a train wreck and you'll just snowball downhill.
Have you had a moment like that recently where you kind of feel like you fell off and needed to like get back into some kind of rhythm and in
certain ways like that, in certain avenues of my life, excuse me. Some days some stretches of time I'm crushing it at the gym, which I really love doing. But like even today, like I didn't get enough sleep last night. I was like slow rolling this morning. I was on a little bit of a time constraint before this, so I went to the gym. I had kind of a shitty workout, but I got in and got it done. Since I went to Hawaii, I had to pause my acting classes because I was going to be gone, and I didn't want to pay for a class I wasn't going to. And I have yet to sign back up for them and get them restarted. And so that's kind of how I'm like off my pivot right now, which is just stupid because I literally just have to email them and be like, yo, fire my shit back up. And then I'll be in class tomorrow.
Right.
But like, yeah, so ways like that. And sometimes you just got to like lasso yourself and like pull you back to where you need to be. And then you're like, oh yeah, wait, no, I got to be grinding. I got to be doing my thing. I got to be focused this way instead of playing in the dandelions.
Well, and sometimes I feel like the kind of ebb and flow of the routines of it all can be it. I feel like if you're really motivated for like months or just like this stretch for so long, you risk burnout, and
of course,
then
for sure.
Then it takes I feel like personally it takes a bit longer to kind of get back on the horse once I fall off. So for me, if I feel like I can ebb and flow in and out of these periods of time where I'm like, everything's working, I'm getting up, I'm meditating, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing all the things. And then sometimes it'll just kind of hit me like, I need to prioritize sleep. I'm not going to get up at 5 a.m. this week.
Right.
I'll get back into that. But I'm still hitting all those markers of things.
Absolutely.
I want to do.
And sometimes you need to listen to your body. Like
Right.
like last week, I had one day where I was like, bro, I can't go to the gym today. I'll make it up another day, but I didn't get enough sleep, or I feel like shit right now. I got to get this extra 2 or 3 hours. And then, yeah, if you listen to yourself and you do it, you can make it happen.
Do you suffer from any type of anxiety, depression, or anything like that? And you don't have to share
so
if you don't want
no,
to.
I'm not ashamed of sharing it or embarrassed about it. I have like, I'll get depressive like episodes, and this is something I didn't share with anybody in my life until 2 years ago. And I don't know if it's seasonal or if it's tied to certain life events or anything. I haven't really been able to lock in a pattern in that regard. But yeah, I used to get really pretty bad depressive episodes. Generally, it wouldn't really make me change my external output.
Right.
But I would feel pretty rough in my head and in my heart and
So people weren't
stuff.
really aware of what was going on internally. You
Right.
kind of just still like put on the happy face.
If I was in a relationship, quasi-relationship at the time, they might have felt it because
Right.
I just kind of like would recede from that a little bit because I was probably not very much in love with myself at the time. But that ebbs and flows. I'm definitely on a ebb. I don't know which one is what,
Hi?
but yeah, I'm good right now.
You up?
But there are some days when I experience anxiety, and anxiety is whack, and I didn't really understand. Anxiety had never been a part of my life, and I call it ethereal, non-causal anxiety because, like growing up, you had
What?
Yeah,
Let's talk about that.
So anxiety that just like hangs up in the ether, and you just like walk around and you feel like you have a dark cloud over your head, like, oh,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a shoe that drops today, and I'm gonna get bad news. From where? Why? Why do I feel like that? That sucks. Because I mean, you get anxious about your first date, or you have a big test, or whatever. I always used to throw up before every football game in high school. That's fucking nerves. I'm anxious. But
Is that normal? Did other guys do that?
no. But I'm like, well, it's because one time my coach literally told me, like before one of the games, it happened when I was young, but
This is at Cal?
So this is in high school.
Oh shit! Not even that high
Yeah,
stakes.
and my coach, no. I mean, to me it was.
To you it was.
Because my
I
coach in
shouldn't
high school it's
diminish.
everything.
Right.
But my coach literally says to me, he puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, hey son, we need you today. I'm like, I'm always gonna show up and give everything I can. Always.
pressure.
But he's like, if you're not firing on all cylinders, basically if you're not the best person on the field tonight, we're not winning the game.
Oh my god.
I was like, no, for sure, coach. And just like let it go. And so then from then,
Oh my
like the pressure, it's just the pressure that I put on myself was always like crazy. But anyway, so you get anxious about
Right.
things, but not like just walking around like, why do I feel like shit today? Why do I have a pit in my stomach? And that entered my life, entered the chat a couple of years, like 2 years ago. And yeah, thumbs down, 0 out of 10 recommend. But I talk
did
about
you deal
that
with
from
it?
time to time.
How do you deal with it? Because I'm sure it's not something that just obviously it's not like it's here and then it's not there. I mean,
Yeah,
it could be, but
at the time I wouldn't. I just didn't know how. I didn't know what the fuck to do. But I would just stay on my routine as best I could and try to hope that would like pull me out of it. But that's not really like a fair thing to do to yourself, because if you've been on your routine and you still feel it, that means that your routine isn't a causal or a mender of that. So you it's simply staying on your routine is not going to help, because if you've already been on your routine and it still happened,
right.
Obviously if being on your routine was going to help, it wouldn't have happened in the first place.
Right.
So that's not it. There's something else, or you have to insert or inject something else to fix it, right? And so at the time I had no idea what to do, but now I feel relatively capable in solving the issue. I've been to I was seeing a therapist for a little while. I've done my time in therapy.
We love therapy.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would honestly say that it saved my life.
Why do you think it's hard for men to kind of identify with their vulnerability and accept that therapy might help? Like, do you think it's situational with family, like how you were raised? Do you think it's just like generationally we're moving into, I think, hopefully moving into a space where men are a little bit more open to getting help, seeking out help when they feel these, areas of depression or anxiety. But I feel like for a very long time, especially the way that I grew up and the men I grew up with, it was not even an option. There was no talk of feelings. There was no talk of therapy. But
Right.
now the more men I'm in contact with, the more men in my life are actually seeking therapy and are seeking ways to kind of cope with the things they're dealing with. Like,
Right.
was there a blockage before you started going to therapy where you're like, that's not for me? Yeah.
For sure. No, absolutely.
Why?
1000%. I was raised in a relatively traditional heteronormative household, two heterosexual parents, a relatively traditional dad who was, as much as I love him, pretty like, he's also a doctor, so he dealt with, and he was an AIDS doctor, so he had to understand from the time he left medical school, like, hey, every patient I have is gonna die. So when it came to dealing with loss and grief and stuff like that, he's like,
Yeah, he has to mask that shit.
emotionally callous as shit. And that's not like his fault. It's just it's an occupational hazard, And so
It's like cops and firefighters.
yeah,
I
my
feel
dad
like
wasn't always the most emotionally present individual, whether he wanted to be or not. And it's okay. I don't really fault him for it. That's what happens. And his father was not only not that for him, but super, super hard on him. And like, it was rough. And I think generationally and traditionally, men are just not only, I wouldn't say like less in touch with their emotions, because I think that would mean like you'd have to feel emotions less, which I think is a ridiculous thing to put on any human being, or much less gender, sex, whatever you want to get into with that debate. But definitely it wasn't like, historically, it's not encouraged for men to be open and vulnerable about it. Whether that's right or wrong, you know, you can have that discussion with yourself, but that's just what it was.
Yeah.
And still to an extent is. Like if I was in elementary school, middle school, or even high school, and I was like, yeah, guys, I'm in therapy, my guys would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And call me names. And so nobody wants to deal with that. Even if the guys who were making fun of me, razzing me about it, were like, also like, hey, this might be like a good idea for me. Or, hey, what was it like, you know?
Right.
And even in college, I was like, bro, I don't need that. Like, I don't think that's going to help me. And I had no real basis for that, except I just didn't really want to be, I think I consider myself a relatively traditional, progressive, but traditional heterosexual man. And this is kind of like, I talk about the phrase toxic masculinity has grown as exponentially in the last 5 years. And I think a lot of people throw it around as just like the only existence of masculinity, period.
Right.
Like all masculinity is toxic,
right.
which is absolute bullshit.
Right.
But also there are definitely aspects of masculinity historically that are toxic. Like this, like sheltering and just constantly swallowing all of your emotions and not opening up about them. That's toxic, not necessarily for like the all of men as a whole, but person to person, case to case basis, that can be a huge problem.
Right.
And I know it ended up being so for me. But
did it show up in your relationships or with friends or partners, or did you start to just notice it internally and you were like, oh, I want to deal with this. I don't like feeling this cloud or this heaviness, and I'm just gonna like to talk to somebody.
I mean, you'd have to ask my exes if it was around.
Oh, we did. No, I'm just kidding.
But
we reached out to 954.
Right. Jeez. But it was. I would have to argue that probably it helped me, or it hindered my ability to get super uber close to people, especially if if it was a relationship that wasn't already like super serious.
Right.
It makes it more difficult to it's not like harder to feel love, like if you somehow get past those walls that I had put up, but it definitely made it harder to get there or experience it from like if say love is over here, right, or beyond this wall, to get beyond that wall was really hard. If you found a way to do it somehow, cool. Like I'm very capable of love and being a loving individual. I consider myself like a lover boy at heart, to be honest. But to get from here to there and over the wall, hats off to any girl who did it.
Have you been in love?
Multiple
times.
I think so. Yeah, I think twice.
Are you single?
I am.
Currently?
Yes.
Mingling?
Yeah.
Are you on any dating apps?
No.
Oh.
No.
How do we feel about the dating apps? We did an episode
I feel like dating apps are a great way to keep you on dating apps.
Ah, interesting perspective.
I think it's a great way to make everybody feel emotionally vindicated and validated and terrible about yourself.
How do you meet women now?
The same way you meet any human being.
Just out and about?
Yeah.
And are you the type that's like, will you take that? You seem pretty forward. I know you as being forward, but of course we're just friends. But it's like, will you go after what you want? Ask the girl on the date? Like, what's your... Do
you know what my Instagram bio is?
The bio?
Yeah, like the little thing underneath my name. There's a quote in it. I say that's why I ask.
What does it say?
It's a quote from one of my favorite movies of all time.
Hitch. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it is Will Smith though.
How did I
Pursuit
know?
of happiness. If you want something, go get it. Period. So I take that approach in
so
pretty much everything.
If you want something, go get it.
I've talked to somebody at a grocery store. Yeah.
We like a forward man here at Bitter Bitch.
No,
also like an educated forward man.
Right. And it's I think because I've been on dating apps before and I'm like, dude, this is terrible.
Right.
Like there was one time so you can get really, especially as the man, you have to like be the one to shoot especially in LA, this conversation could jump off. But
you got to be the one to shoot the shot.
You got to be the one to shoot the shot.
Dunk
and
the shot.
Make sure you fucking like absolutely swish it. Like you have to razzle dazzle, wine, dine this girl before you even meet her. You have to like blow her fucking socks off. And you're like, how am I going to do that with a message, right? And so many people just use dating apps as like I said, like an ego boost. And I think like that might be the thing. Guys are probably just looking for some strange. Girls are just
Okay, hold on. Is this a word I don't know?
Strange is just new sexual experiences.
Strange?
Yeah.
You guys, I'm getting old.
It's a phrase. It's a phrase.
I've never heard that before.
It's fucked up, and it is what it is. But it's
So
just sorry. Sorry about that. If that
I
offended
love
anybody,
it.
but that's what it was. Like some guys will be if they're a hyper single guy or whatever, and they're like, man, I've been seeing like the same couple of chicks for a while. We're not like nothing serious, but like I think I need some strange. It's a fucking fucked up way to say it, but that's the context. That's how you can use it.
I love that. So you're meeting girls naturally out and about. You're going for it, period, which I love. Do you have any, no, I'm not going to use the word regrets, but relationship red flags that have come up that you didn't acknowledge at the time?
Absolutely.
What are
Yeah.
they? What are
I know
some
that
red
you
flags?
love this conversation between us, but so
what are just some red flags that you've noticed in past relationships that you did ignore, that you moving into maybe your next relationship or meeting somebody, you're going to have your ears perked. You're going to know, okay,
my antennas are gonna be going.
Yeah,
for sure.
What would that be considered?
So my two like biggest icks, like right off the bat, like what you're gonna get stopped at the door, is arrogance and entitlement.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's with any human
anyone,
being.
yeah.
But especially like if I'm trying to see you romantically and I'm interested in you, confidence is huge. Cool, awesome, I love that. Because without it, I promise you, we're never gonna work.
Yeah.
But arrogance and entitlement, because there's a difference between arrogance and confidence, right?
Right.
And entitlement is so annoying. Like then you get into, especially in the LA culture, like you get into the whole splitting the bill, picking up the bill thing on the first date, on the third date, on the this, on the that. Like how long do you wait to make the relationship sexual? All types of stuff. It's all gets crazy.
Oh my gosh. This is like a whole, I feel like there needs to be a rule book out here. I've been hitched.
I just might need the right one.
I mean, I've been hitched and attached for 15 years and didn't feel like this back in my day.
Right. And I think I try to always hold myself as a gentleman, as somebody that my mother and grandmother would be proud of. I try to treat women with respect. But at the same time, I ain't about to be done sideways and let you get away with it. Like I'm not going to not hold you accountable just because you're a woman.
Okay.
So if you do or say or whatever, I'm going to speak my mind. I'm not going to call you out of your name, but I'm going to be like, that's fucking wild. Why would you think that? Why would you assume that? Why do you think that you get to treat me like that? If I could never treat you like that, I would never treat you like that. Like, I'll let my tongue wag for sure.
What's your ideal first date situation? Do you have
That's
a go-to
probably like
spot?
a case-to-case thing. No, I think first dates really blow.
Okay.
Because especially if you do the traditional like dinner,
yeah.
right? And you know me, I'm not about to take you out for drinks,
right?
And loosen us up. But yeah, if you do like a traditional sit down dinner date, that sucks. It might go well, and you're like, I've had good first dates. You might have, I have too, but like generally speaking, it sucks. It puts so much pressure on everybody. Mm-hmm. You have to worry about what small talk you're having at the table. If I love, the scene in Wedding Crashers with Vince Vaughn. Then I got to play the game of acting like I'm interested. Am I not interested? Is she really interested? Do I want to be interested? Do I want to seem like I'm interested, but I'm not really interested? And then we're going to, like that scene, I love that. And he's so right. And that holds up to today, 15 years later or whenever that movie came out. And probably nearly 20 years later. And
I had a guest a couple weeks ago, Max, and he was going on a blind date the next day after our interview.
Oh, blind dates are crazy.
Well, and he's like, I'm doing it. He didn't even know what she looked like. He didn't look her up. None of that. And his go-to on the first date is ice cream. And
okay,
his
that's not a bad one.
Was that it's fun. There's no pressure. And what did he say, Theo? If you remember, it was like the option he said it's casual with the option to extend.
Yeah, no. Max knows what the fuck he's talking about.
I was dead, but then I was like, is this something that like you do? He goes, oh yeah, it's my go-to. It's my spot. Like I'll see people there and they're like, oh, yeah. Back with another date. And I think that's
the same spot is insane.
Yes.
That's
takes
crazy.
him to the same spot, same ice cream
He's
spot.
just rinsing and repeating.
I mean, but I'm like,
Good
okay,
for
I
him.
like that. And it's also like for somebody like yourself who doesn't drink,
right.
It is like a good, like casual, no pressure option to extend, which I think is hilarious. But it kind of loosens things up. Who doesn't like ice cream? And if they don't, they're a sociopath.
Right,
but
exactly.
It's interesting because I'm like, I don't even know. Jeremy and I went on a date the other night. first time in a very long time.
I love that for you.
I let him plan it because our
Beautiful.
therapist suggested that.
Love
And
it.
I was like, I got the babysitter. You let me know. And he's like, all right, no judgment. And I'm like, I'm not going to judge you. You're planning it. We go. He's like, so I thought we could do dessert first. I'm like, yes. Favorite. So he takes me to Go Greek, which is fucking expensive.
Oh my
so
fuck.
expensive.
It's divine.
But
it's outrageously expensive.
mine alone, and I didn't even fill that shit to the top, was $14.
Yeah.
Just for mine. And I was joking because, you go there, it's like $20, $25 just for that. And I'm like, one of the main, not the main reason I don't drink, but one of the reasons I don't drink is because it's so expensive and I don't want to waste my calories on sugary drinks and that make me feel like shit.
Right.
But it feels like that same scenario. Like, I'm spending $14 on this.
Right.
And then we were going to watch the sunset, but it was cloudy. And then we went to, have you been to the Bay Theater in Palisade Village?
I have not.
It's a Netflix theater. So they play Netflix films, which is like you're
Was this on your story the other day?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like,
Okay. I saw that and I was like, where is that at?
it's so quaint. Palisade Village is so quaint and cute. There's a bunch of restaurants. It's got shops. I always love to go Christmas shopping there.
Okay.
But the Bay Theater, the reason I say this is because it's a good date spot. If you're into movies or even just taking a girl to walk around and get dinner, they also have an ice cream spot, coffee, whatever. But you can order dinner at your seats. And the food, like the menu is robust. It's good food. Everything comes in like real, so like a popcorn bowl. It's like an unlimited popcorn bowl. It comes in like this big silver bowl. The drinks come in real things.
Right.
The seats look like first class airplane seats with little lights, and it's plush. So if you're looking to impress a little bit, go to the Bay Theater.
Cool.
They
The
again
Bay
play
Theater.
Netflix films, but they're only like $12, which is kind of a steal in this town.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we saw Hocus Pocus because they were playing
Dope.
Hocus Pocus, the original. So I just think
That's
that was
awesome.
nice, and then it
That's
was just
cool.
something different.
There are times when I think I've struggled with this personally because you get if you're on a first date or even any date with a girl, even if it's a girl that you're like relatively involved with, you're beyond first, second, third, fourth dates.
You're comfortable.
The idea of the man planning it is a good one in my opinion. Again, I'm progressive, but I'm traditional. Like if I take you out on a date, right, I'm going to pay the bill. I'm going to. Does it kind of suck? For sure, because I'm spending $180 like every time I take you out. That sucks. But I'm gonna do it. I'm inviting you out. I'm not paying for your time, but
I
I'm
feel like
treating.
that was directed to someone.
It was just directed to people who believe that. That's insane. Do you know who else pays for time? There's a reason motel rooms are by the hour. I'm paying like to do something nice for you, right? And so like my belief on like paying for the first date or whatever, paying for the date is the guy should do it, especially if he asked her out. The guy should do it, but the girl should offer, and that's where like this entitlement thing comes into play. You should never be. You're not entitled to my money. What? Like you're gonna be ordering the lobster? Oh, I bet you are. I bet you are. You know what I'm saying?
There needs to at least be like a reach for the wallet,
right? Exactly.
Like, oh no,
or do you want to split it? And yeah, the guy should pay, but you need to offer because then what I get in return for paying is feeling like I did something nice for you and feeling like you appreciate it. If I reach for the thing and you're like on your phone or whatever, or you don't say nothing, like, then you robbed me of the opportunity to feel good about what I just did. Of course,
if she's on her phone, on a date,
no, of course,
she's already kicked to the curb.
But like, if you don't offer or whatever, then and I just grab it and you don't say anything or even say like, hey, I really appreciate it. I mean, they do, whatever. But if you don't offer, then you rob me of what I get out of it, which is feeling like I did something nice for you, feeling like I gave you something in return for, you saying yes and coming out. Because you like girls get a million proposals all the time. And if it's a first date, like I could be a freak, I could be a creep, I could try to murder you, right? That's not something I have to worry about going on a date. I don't think this 5'5",
regardless of what that girl at the gym thought of you.
Fuck off. That's so stop. Oh my God. That shit gets me sweaty. That shit makes me mad.
There was an incident at the gym. We are not going to repeat the story.
I was doing her a favor.
She lost it. So you don't drink.
Correct.
Have you never drank?
Never.
Not sip? You never even tried it?
There was one time I was at my friend's house and he was having like a house party, like a people over. It was here in LA.
Oh, okay.
So I was 20 at the time. I think I was 26, 27.
Okay.
But it might have been his Halloween party. So it might be like 2 years ago tomorrow or whatever. But anyway, I put my Gatorade on the rocks down in the solo cup. And I'm like talking to somebody. I'm like, yeah, cool. And I pick it up and I get a mouthful of what I imagine is gin because I picked up the wrong cup.
Yeah.
And I went and spit it out in the sink and rinsed my mouth out. So that's as close as it's been.
Interesting because you're a bartender. So
Yeah.
you aren't tasting, like they do like the straw
No.
test. You're not tasting your drinks.
I do not.
When did you make that decision to never drink or just to not drink? Was it just
It
something?
started when I was like 12, 8, 10, 12-ish.
Oh, interesting. That's a pretty young age to make a conscious decision like that.
Yeah.
Did you see something you didn't
I did.
want to? Okay.
Yeah. There's a family back in Santa Rosa who my family is very, very close with. They have a child for each of our children.
Okay.
So my sister, myself, and my younger brother. And there was a guy, I'm not going to put his business out there and whatever, but I really, really looked up to him. He was everything I wanted to be. Yeah, he was good looking. He was athletic. He played all the sports I played. All the girls liked him. He was good in school. Like he could hold court with adults as a kid. Like he was the man. And I was like, bro, I want to be just fucking like that guy. And then he starts experimenting with stuff, drinking, smoking weed, like really young, like 7th grade. And maybe in LA or whatever, in like a big city that might not be that young. But in our town, that was young.
That's young.
And so by the time he's in high school, he's like in hard shit and getting kicked out of school, kicked off teams, looking nasty, grades falling, getting, expelled from schools, gets him, goes to rehab, comes back from rehab, not done right. Like, and I see his life just fall to shit. And I'm like, whoa, I don't ever want to do something. I don't ever want to be under the influence and do something that's going to fuck up my future. So I'm not going to drink until I'm 21. Right. And I've never wanted to do any drugs at all. But then 21 comes around and I'm so locked in college and my birthday's in August and playing college football. You're in fall camp at that time. So you're just like a piece of meat in a machine. You're a cog in a machine from August 1 until your first game, like waking up 5 o'clock every day, meetings, lifting, meals, break, meetings, walkthrough, practice, like until 10 p.m. every night. So you're just going.
And were there guys, I mean, I'm assuming there's guys on your team and friends of yours that would release, they would take the weekend and they would like let loose, no?
Yeah.
Even, okay. So then it's like not only are you in this structured environment with football, and you said you're in the NCAA, so like you're in it, like, and you said they own you. So it's like you are also upholding some kind of standard to other people.
Right.
And then but I'm assuming you weren't retreating from like the college parties. You just weren't participating in that.
I'll be honest. I don't enjoy parties like that in general because like nightlife is not meant for somebody like me. I do not drink. I do not smoke. I do not do any other drugs. I don't really like meeting women out that way because you guys, sometimes if the music's right, because women already in nightlife like have their guard up because they assume, and they're probably right most of the time, like every guy who talks to them is imagining them naked or trying to, whatever, right? Some of them are dangerous people.
What was the word you used?
Strange.
They're trying to get strange up in that bitch.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so they already have their guard up, so they're like more inclined to like shut you down or do the hard to get thing. And I'm just like, I don't want to spend my night that way. The music is loud. There's way too many people that you don't know or don't want to be around. I can't really talk to my friends, and I really value talking and like making connections and and you can't do that in these spaces. And so it's just not really for me. But I would still go in college, try to have the college experience, whatever. And I would go and I just wouldn't drink. And I definitely, like, at the time I was like, yeah, y'all like this? That's crazy. One facets of the human experience that I cannot relate to in any way is the hangover. Because I don't actually know what it feels like at all.
You're not missing out. Like at all. At all. And especially for somebody like you, like, okay, I'm going to get up and work out. Like, you just feel like, ugh, for 2 days. And as you get older, it gets worse and longer. And it's not worth it, in my opinion. Not worth it at all. And
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. And then the sugariness, it's just awful. But it's like having that experience. I've been out with friends who are drinking and I'm not drinking. And sometimes that's fine. We have a good time. I can dance. I don't need alcohol to be the life of the party. Trust.
Right. Exactly.
I can have
the same way.
fun. I can show up, show out. But I do know there's some friends that like feel like because they need alcohol to let loose that, just drink. And there's that pressure.
Oh, there's definitely some pressure and projection. Yeah.
Do you have like friends in your life, or maybe you did and maybe you since don't, but like that the pressure to drink or the pressure to live that lifestyle is kind of like a determinant of their friendship?
Ooh, that's a great question. Thanks. Nowadays, definitely not.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually kind of admire it or revere me for it. I don't want to put words in their mouth and make me sound like I'm somebody special, but
they love you for it.
They love it about me. And I think like, yeah, through time, as I've gotten more confident and more resolute in that repose, I've just like weeded out those bad apples, if you will, or if that's something that you like, that's not going to change about me. So get right or get left, honey. Like I'm not,
Get in or
it's
get
not
out.
gonna. And then some people will be like, really? Like why? Like you don't want to drink with me tonight? I'm like, are you fucking, bro? I met you like 3 months ago.
I don't drink.
27 years of sobriety out the fucking window because for you. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh.
But there was a lot of pressure in high school. Of course, in high school with the social everything, like no one's gonna stop liking me because I don't drink. But there was a lot of people I wouldn't say there's a lot of pressure.
They should be
like
thanking you. You're always their DD.
right, literally. I wouldn't say that I felt a lot of pressure, but there was a lot of pressure pushed at me. But peer pressure is not something that I've ever really struggled with. I've been very blessed in that way, and I think that comes from like my parents. My mom with the confidence, and my dad with the discipline and stuff.
Hard, yeah.
I'm just like, no, I'm cool. I've always been. I can't remember what it was, but somebody the other day I was listening to something and they talked about how at certain times in your life you go through changes or you go through these experiences where you kind of settle into who you are. And although I've worried about like what I'm gonna do or how I'm gonna make it, I've always been very, very comfortable and very, very confident and very, very resolute again in like who I am and what is or isn't for me. That's never really been tricky for me.
You once used a term about honesty that I found was super interesting.
Yeah.
Radical honesty.
Radical candor.
Radical candor.
Yeah.
Do you still practice that? And
I do.
Is that with everyone in your life, friends, family? Like
Everybody who deserves it, really.
is that just explain to the audience what that might look like?
Yeah, radical candor is just the embrace of, so candor is another word for honesty. If you don't know, it's a synonym.
He's very smart, you guys. All the single ladies out there.
But it's, so I adopted it, sometime through college. And it's just the practice of being honest as often as you can, like really always about everything. Now, there's a difference between being honest and over-explaining, over-sharing, over whatever. Like say, like for example, this is not something that's happened to me necessarily. I'm not recounting a personal experience, but if a girl comes up to you or a girl you're seeing is like, hey, like I felt an energy shift, like whatever. I don't know if you're like really into me like that. Like, how are you feeling? And the fact of the matter is you just don't find her attractive anymore. Or recently she like put on weight or something like that, right? And it's something superficial that is probably going to hurt her feelings or whatever. You don't have to say, yeah, you put on weight, or I'm just not attracted to you anymore, or this happened or that happened, or you gave me the ick. You don't have to say those things, but you should be honest in that time and be like, I'm honestly like, I'm just feeling a different way about you or about us or about myself. And I'm just not really interested in pursuing this anymore. I wish you nothing but the best. But so be honest and answer her question without lying. But
if it's
you don't
gonna
need to like
hurt
hurt. Yeah, you don't need to
yeah.
hurt somebody and be a fucking asshole and say like everything that's coming to mind. Like that's not it. But also, and it's not just in relationships or with people like that, but like I had to use it a lot with my football coach at the time. And I really struggled to personally to like speak out against authority, especially like as a kid, like you're grown up, raised, taught to like listen to your teachers, listen to your coaches, and obey what they say because like the coach controls your playing time and don't piss him off or he's not going to play you type of a thing, right? But I would go into my coach's office and be like, look, coach, and it was really hard for me at the time. That's honestly, it's kind of why I practiced it. I tried to start that's when I really started trying to attack things that I struggled with or that I feared. And I would go into my coach's office and be like, look, coach, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything you tell me to do. I'm doing it well. I deserve more than what I'm getting. And that's a conversation that I never would have had before this. Yeah. And there are times that I could tell that he respected me for it. Did it change my playing time? I'll be honest, not very much, unfortunately, because of just, that's a whole different conversation about like how that team was run.
Right.
But I know that he respected me for it and he appreciated it. And yeah, you can do it with your friend. Like even like, hey bro, do you want to go to this thing? No, man, I can't. I'm busy. No, you're not. You're not busy. You just don't want to go. Yeah. Just say that. And then your friend at least knows he might be a little let down. He's not going to be mad at you if he's a grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman or whatever.
I think it takes maturity
Yeah, of course.
to receive the candor, because
For sure.
of the
And you
same
don't know how
mindset.
it's going to hit everybody.
You don't.
And I've had some people fall out and they they don't really like it because they think I'm an asshole. I'm like, bro, I didn't even say anything against you or the event. I just didn't want to go. Like, I've
didn't lie.
had a crazy week and I just don't have the energy for it.
I think that is very important what you said right there. Like,
It's like your boundaries, like last episode.
it is. You can listen to that one now. It is. It's putting up a boundary for yourself, right?
For
You're
sure.
like, hey, I'm not in the space to do this, or it doesn't work out with my schedule, or I need to prioritize me time. I mean, to be frank, you don't have to give an excuse, but if it's a close friend or if it's somebody in your life and you're like, shit, I really want to show up for you, or maybe it's just like something you're not that into, like, yeah, the honesty will get you further, right, in that friendship. And if it's somebody that can't handle that, then maybe they need to fall off.
It's kind of like a micro milestone of like
Yeah.
that you reach with somebody when you can be like that. And I was listening to the boundaries episode, and there are some episodes in my life, or facets, avenues of my life where I'm really good about it. And some of the boundaries, honestly, they don't need to be there. Alex, take them down. You're guarding
You're
yourself
putting up
too
all
much.
sorts of guards.
Right. You got trauma that you're walling up. But in other ways, like, I really need boundaries, like, especially if somebody asks something from me, maybe not to show up or do something like, hey, do you want to come to this thing? But like, if somebody is in need of help or service, I really struggle to say no. And that's kind of just like the giving nature of my siblings and I talk about it all the time. Actually, it's kind of like the Netherda curse.
Just always being there for people.
Yeah. And
not, I mean, of all
because
curses,
both
it's
my
not the
parents are
worst.
unbelievably giving.
Right.
And in ways like that kind of hindered my dad's ability to be a dad because he was giving so much to so many other people, which is such an admirable, like, if I can be completely honest, like, my dad is one of the best men I've ever known. But in times, especially when we were younger, like, my dad struggled as a dad because he would just give so much to so many people all the time. And now I'm like, oh, that's what a man should be like. That's what a man should do. Even though sometimes, not necessarily. And sometimes you need to put up a boundary and be like, I can't really do that right now.
Right.
I can't really do that for you. Like, doing that for you, I think it takes us in a certain direction and it would make me uncomfortable. Whatever.
I'm going to have some rapid fire questions right now. They don't have to be
sure.
rapid fire. We're gonna
I don't
have
have
you
anywhere
back.
to be. I have to be at work at 3:00.
But I'm going to bring you back because I want to do this again.
I would love to.
Okay. If nominated, would you go on a reality dating show? If so, which one? If somebody else nominated you, they called you up. They were like, hey, we got your your friend so-and-so nominated you.
I've been nominated for 2.
Which ones?
The Bachelor.
Okay.
And Love is Blind. No, not Love is Blind. The other one.
Love
Love
Island? Oh my God.
And I said no to both of them.
What about Survivor?
Survivor was crazy. I had a girl from my high school just went on Survivor. It was
applied.
Candor, and she got voted off or whatever. But it was good for her. But I also feel like I don't know any movie stars who were on reality shows, especially dating shows. That's what I'll say. I don't know if it'll hurt my acting career.
True.
So
Love that. Non-negotiables for going into your next relationship. What are a couple non-negotiables?
we talked about this. I didn't actually get to the red flags. I talked about my 2 icks, unfortunately, because I answered the question wrong. Arrogance and entitlement, out the door.
Okay. Hype song for the gym. I know you're a big music buff. You can spit some lyrics on the Instagram. So what's
Right.
your like ultimate, like, you're like, no, this is not, I cannot get to the gym, and you like need something to hype you up. What's the song you were going to throw on? I know there's probably more than one, but
There's a million, but it's also a tricky question because I actually, for the most part, I don't listen to music at the gym.
oh, what about before? Going to the gym?
To the gym sometimes if I'm just in the mood and I'm just in a good mood. Sorry for burping in the mic, but I'm just in the mood
get
and I'm
out.
just like trying to keep it going in the car. I'll listen to whoever I'm listening to at the time. Like I love St. John. I listen to him a lot. I go through big phases of him. Russ has always been like my favorite guy. Okay. I'm really big on Big X the Plug right now. He's an unbelievable rapper out of Texas. He's fire. But like DMX always fires me the fuck
Yeah,
up. Like
I
X
would
gonna
have
give
to
it to you.
agree.
If I'm like, if there's one song that I need to play,
Yeah.
that might be it, to be
Okay.
honest. Or if my hoodie's staying on, it'll be like Many Men by 50 Cent.
Do you have a hype song for setting the mood in the bedroom? Or just setting the mood on a casual date night?
Again, no, not really. I don't listen to a lot of music.
No, you're trying to schmooze? You're
Doing
trying
that.
to get salty?
The music of conversation.
Oh, okay.
If we are entering that space and for that intention, and I like set like, I don't know what it is. Like a lot of the times, like sex just comes naturally, organically.
As it does.
You know, I'm not like gonna like go into the other room, light candles, and turn on music and stuff, and then like bring you into the room like it's go time. You know what I mean? It's just like when we get there, we get there. I don't know how to explain it, but I've done that in the past, but I honestly don't really care that much about like what's on, as long as it's like slow, smooth, like R&B or something like that.
This is called Bitter Bitch. When in your life, or when have you remembered, maybe it's a recent occasion, the last time you were either a bitter asshole or a big old bitch?
See, to me, you say bitch, and I'm like, it's that toxic masculinity is coming out a little bit.
Yeah.
I was vulnerable with my friends, and I expressed whatever, and I hit them back afterward, and I was like, I was sorry, bro, I was kind of being a bitch. But
no, but that is funny because that's how most men interpret the word bitch, right? Like, oh, I'm being a little bitch means I'm being weak, or I'm being
because like
vulnerable.
I'll never say like how I talk to somebody, and like bro, in your, because I know through your lens and what you mean by the word bitch, I'm a bitch to people at my job all the time.
Okay.
But because sometimes I have to be, and they fucking need it. But to me, like, if I would never use that terminology or that word that way for myself.
Right.
Like I was being a bitch to this lady because she was bitching me out or whatever. I mean, I could if I knew my audience was you, but if I'm like recounting my life, that's not going to be it. But so like, yeah,
being a little bitch to your
my friends all got together and I wasn't invited.
I'd be a little bitch about that too,
And
though.
that really bothered me. I was like, I mean, we've talked about this very briefly, but they all went up to, because they're very close to them and as I am now, but they all went up to a Halloween party at Jamie Foxx's house.
Oh, shit.
And I had been going up there all the time with them. We'd been hanging out. I know Jamie by name now. Like, we're relatively close. They all went up without me. And I've been telling them for the last couple of weeks, like, how much I've wanted to see them and how much I miss them because I've been working so much and whatever. They're all up there. I didn't get an invite. Like, are you serious?
What was the reasoning?
I just kind of fell through because I hadn't seen them so much. It was kind of like a proximity thing. Like, oh, I've been seeing this guy every day. I'll just bring him. We'll all go, the three of us, whatever. I'm the one who doesn't live in that part of town. It slipped my mind, basically. Honestly, I'm sorry. And so I told him, I was like, bro, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry. I was being a little bitch.
Got it.
I miss you, whatever.
So where can everybody find you? I know on Instagram you are Alexander the Great One.
Yeah.
And there's some underscores in between Alexander and the. On TikTok, ya boy Nerdy.
Yeah.
For all the latest voices and motivational speech.
If it's easier, you can just Google my name because I'm lucky enough to be the only one in the world. But it's
Alexander.
Alex space Netherda. Alex Netherda. There's only one of me.
Also just look up Travis Kelce lookalike.